It's been about 5 years. Since the beginning of 2016, I've been observing some behaviors on the internet, learning from different channels, materials, in this sphere of men, observing the female psyche, and finally, I decided to start a channel. Here to make a brief presentation. This nickname that I chose, Trunks du Futuro, it's a little bit emblematic. It's not giving a dividend or anything, it's just one more among several of those who have a YouTube channel or follow-through, comments, views, who has been observing that the dynamics of relationships, women, society as a whole has changed a lot in these last 10 years, especially with the advent of Instagram. So, this is going to be the first theme of the video, which I want to talk about Instagram and women. Why this name? Several of the inspirations to which I am inscribed, I follow closely. Channels like Dom Sandro, Attitude Alpha, Social Arts by Bruno Hakun, Grand Master Hakun, which is now on an alternative platform, but it still has a lot of material from him here on YouTube, Junior Masters, Renang Delay dos Homens, and others that I may have forgotten now, but that are doing a phenomenal job out there. So these that I mentioned and a few others are inspirations to which I decided to make this channel, in addition to my own observation, talking to friends with women, observing society in these last years. So, since 2016, I think everyone has that thing called Matrix Awakening, in which we learn that what women say has nothing to do with what they really like and practice anyway. Nesahan Alita, who has never read it. Nesahan Alita, if you come to stop the video, I recommend you read. It is a fundamental material for those who are waking up, and this was written between 2005 and 2008, before this boom of social media, smartphones, and everything else. So, since 2016, I took the red pill, let's say, about Instagram, which will be the theme of the first video. Now getting into the subject, I see many men analyzing the prism of the current situation, and even some women, even those who are more mainstream, who talk about social networks. Obviously, they will never talk about the real reason in the media, because the media is completely feminist. Everyone knows that. It's no news to anyone, but social network is not all the same. As much as there was a gradual process, let's say, from MF, Merck, and CQ, who were actually messengers. It's not even a social network, but taking the timeline of the internet, the interactions on the internet. Merck, CQ, MSN, or MSN Orkut, which was the famous MSN Orkut duo. Then came the very strong Facebook here in Brazil, after the film Social Network caught and Orkut started to drop in level, and today, ironically, almost everyone misses Orkut. At the time it was underpriced, then Facebook had a boom, and then came Instagram, even having a brutal difference from Orkut to Facebook. I still think Facebook was not a tool in terms of women who ruined society. Facebook was much more political, divided a lot of society, especially in those Arlene Sif elections. Dilma and many friends and family fought the Brazilian, started to want to talk about politics for everything, and when this political fight began, women kind of left social network. Young people also left the scene. Today, Facebook, despite being a social network that has a lot of people still, it's an older audience. Even here in Brazil, it's an older audience, people who are still very much in this business of politics and Bolsonaro, and outside Bolsonaro and Patriot, and I do not know what. Anyway, my channel, the focus here is not politics. It will be about the bubble that was created in these 20 years, a bubble that was created in recent years. I'll talk a lot about Instagram, about female psyche, about the mentality of women, about how alphas think. What I have observed, the focus of my channel is not this political issue. I think this issue of law projects, I think there are more capable people doing this. So my focus is more on how Instagram destroyed women. I already have about 35 to 40 subteams to talk about. There are many nuances out there about female humor, about men not wanting to date anymore. Anyway, these will be topics that will be posted along the channel as the channel grows. But now, talking about a general overview, what was this change from Facebook to Instagram? That usually happened a lot because Instagram does not appear as an application to disrupt society. It does not appear with the goal of turning people into completely narcissistic people and obsessed with likes, etc. It appears as an application at the beginning of the last decade, in 2011, 2012, as a photo app, very minimalist in the beginning. It only existed for iOS. Then it went to Android and became popular. I do not believe that Instagram was created with the goal of manipulating the masses the way it is today. I think it became something like that. This is what I observed as it came. With these stories tools, Instagram was a tool that emerged. There was a lot of vacuum. In this vacuum of tactical agents that we call in the psychological war, in the cultural war, that would be bloggers, digital influencers, these people from digital marketing, these people who emerged, that we call boyadero, and they have their boyada that follows faithfully. And due to this migration from Facebook to Instagram, you had women in a completely new world, a world in which it was the first social network in which there really was, because at the time of Facebook you did not see famous practically. There was not much interaction between famous people and ordinary people, and women had access to a world that I make an analogy. That was very similar to pornography for men. In the early 2000s, which is both, I'm going to make a video specifically of this, that Instagram would be the porn of women. But just a brief summary, the dopamine that was generated in women because of Instagram today. You get a girl from the village, a girl from the outskirts, a median girl, she puts a photo and she can have 1,000, 2,000 likes, and they will have as much as the majority. The likes will be of very low value men in which she will not want, not even when she is 50 years old. This is another subject that I'm going to talk about, that these women of the 90s, they will not accept if the captains save whores that the women of 80s and 70s accepted. But that's another time. So here, talking in a general way, Instagram inflated the level of the woman to such dantesque levels, something unprecedented in humanity. So, dopamine receptors of women, they were completely damaged. The woman receives today possibly a girl note 6, note 7, and receive the likes of a football player, of a super heir, of a capital, of a famous singer, of an actor, so that moved their brains to such an extent that it collapsed. Just like pornography collapsed the brains of men with which they saw several naked women at once. There is no brain, there is no neurotransmitter that can handle it. But anyway, there is a question that if you stop, the brain regenerates. This is a fact, brain neuroplasticity. But making it analogy, there would only be a reversal of this scenario if everyone stopped using Instagram, especially women. This is an obvious utopia. Instagram bubble was created, and what you see today, it's a hospice inside a cell phone. Screen girls who really think that they are influencing society, bloggers wanting to talk about more complex subjects that the greatest human minds it took centuries and never managed, not even explain, right? Like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, St. Augustine, St. Thomas Aquinas, the most modern men, Nietzsche. Anyway, there were several philosophers who tried to explain about love, about compassion, about selfishness, about difference between sensory intelligence and logical reasoning. These people are wanting to talk and dictate rules precisely because of this vacuum of space. That was in the migration of Facebook to Instagram. You have several people today who are playing this role of leaders of society, influencers, and women believed in it head on. And the result is there. So that girl, let's go back a little to the precedents. That girl who was beautiful in the 90s, she would only be known in her city, in the neighboring city, if it was at a party. Then with 2000 on the internet, you had Orku, MSNU, had a much there, but still, it was something very limited. Orku, you could post 12 photos. There was a limit of friends. Posting ass was an extreme taboo in society. I'm going to make a video just talking about aesthetic procedures. It was only BBB, actress Globo, socialite, silicone. It was an urban legend. So even if the girl was very beautiful, there was not much to be seen. So the bubble was much smaller, so there was still a period. Especially men born in the 80s, they took advantage of this time. The guy was he was able to stay with a beautiful woman because their level of demand, it was not so absurd. And with Facebook it has already changed a little. You started to have large scale, there is no limit. Facebook even has a limit of friends, but then you open the option for followers, you can see what the person is posting. It was a bigger world, but it does not even compare to Instagram today. From the design to the tools and the algorithm, it is a thing made to drive women crazy. Men too. On a smaller scale, men get addicted to seeing their ass and seeing bikini all the time, but the environment is so toxic that many guys are waking up. Many guys who have never had contact with any material headgear or anything, the guy is waking up unconsciously. This is another topic to talk about. Men are waking up in an attacked way, on an industrial scale, and very common. So, Instagram created a bubble in which you have millions of beautiful and single women. Never had so many women in Brazil like today. As much as the beauty of several comes through aesthetic procedures, they are still beautiful. So why is it not so expensive to be beautiful? Everyone knows that the main artificer of women in the sexual market is beauty. The main resource of women is beauty, and of men is money. So it's much easier for a middle-aged girl to be beautiful than a man in Brazil, in an extremely difficult country. Social ascension, social mobility, like Brazil, a middle-class guy gets rich poor. So don't even talk about it practically. Just win the lottery or hit some crazy on the internet. So you have a lot more middle-aged women becoming beautiful and hot than men getting rich. So you don't need to be a genius to see that this account will not close, because from the moment the girl starts to have a lot of likes, she doesn't even need to have a lot of fat. A lot of fat man curb-you-loop-you liking her photo. Just a guy sometimes high, that's kind of crazy there. Sometimes he's sick of going after the same women give a like to her photo, and that's it. The woman doesn't much to become an alpha widow. So this equation, it's the equation we have today. A lot of beautiful and hot single women for a few rich men, so they want to dispute half a dozen of super rich heirs. And I estimate, in these last 5 years I've been observing, I've done several social experiments. I'll tell you some here in the videos. I talk to people who work with algorithms in the underworld and everything I can bring. Some interesting things here, but I estimate from 150 to 200 women, from 150 to 200 beautiful single women for each prominent man. In Brazil, the account I made with some people, it was more or less this, we estimated. They're crossing some income data from Brazil income, concentration, etc. So that 80 to 20 business in Brazil, it's outdated. It never existed. 82-20 is in Switzerland, it's in the state of Massachusetts. In Belgium, it's one of the most equal places here in Brazil. When there was no Instagram, the currency was a little strong. Maybe it was 9010928 in 2010. Today, the thing in Brazil, it's already in 98 to 2, 99 to 1 for a long time. What is 98 to 2? 99 to 1. For those who are not familiar with this issue, of 80 to 20, 99% of women are wanting 1% of men, or 98% of women wanting 2% of men, even because 1% richer in Brazil today starts earning 27,000 reais, as much as it is. Much more 27,000 reais today, it would be a low middle class in the United States, so it's not an absurd amount of money close to what they want because they want 2,003,000 reais. It seems crazy. It's not men know what I'm talking about. It's what they see on Instagram. Several single women who are waiting. The long-awaited plan of God, the happy ending, what Saitama from Altitude Alpha. I'm a big fan. They don't want less than everything. The bubble is formed. Instagram has changed the dynamic. It has become a kind of magazine in which all women compose their routines, their ass, their reflections, their yoga, their meditation. They really think they are. Sabrina Sato and Giselle, and many women from the 80s, they saw it as something postulate. TV Fama, Revista Caras, Globo.com, and today, all of them embraced it. So my friends, to finish this opening video, I will make several videos explaining each specific theme: feminine, humor, the bubble, the income, the poverty that Brazil is and how it affects men. How men are waking up, how women are desperate. The forecast for 2024-2025, which will be the peak of the bubble, but in a comprehensive way. That's what we're going to talk about here on the channel, how Instagram changed, the dynamics and relations, and how the feminine psyche is working today. A big hug, and see you next time.